So would you like to do the official welcome as usual for us?
I certainly will, sir.
And I heard you're doing a double roll tonight.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to have you with us at our usual Tuesday evening meeting. Special welcome to our guest speaker, Mr. Damion Hylton. I know, sir, that you probably prepared at the last moment, but I am pretty sure you're going to really give us something to think about, because the topic you're going to be talking on is something that is near and dear to the heart of every Kiwanian. So we really welcome you. And for everyone else, we just want to, but you know how we do it. We like to be able to individually welcome persons to our meetings. So let's start with clubs outside of Jamaica. Is there any club outside of Jamaica with us this evening? Any club outside of Jamaica? Okay, how about any club in Division 25?
Good evening, everyone. This is Kiwanian Ingrid. So far, we only have two from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay, sorry. So far, I have Vice Chair Crystal with me, and I'm hoping that others will be joining shortly. Thanks for having us and looking forward to your meeting.
Thank you, Kiwanian Ingrid. And it's great to have you and Vice Chair Crystal. And it is nice to see when the Kiwanian takes the initiative and introduces the Vice Chair. It means that you are on the right track. Welcome, glad to have you. Anyone else from Division 25? No? Okay, how about Division 24? Do we have any friends online from Division, any Kiwanian club online from Division 24? No? Okay, well, let's go now to Division 23 East.
My apologies. This is Chair Ingrid. I forgot one of my fellow member, the DLG Vivian McDowell is on, Cuddler is on as well from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. So we are 3 numbers now.
Okay, great to have you.
Yes.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any club from Division 24? No? No Division 24? Okay, how about any club from Division 23 East?
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be joining you. We're bringing greetings on the behalf of President Alderley from the Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. I am Director Anne Emil. With me this evening is Chairman Donna Mesquito, Co-Chair Laurice Brown, and Kiwanian Marilyn. So we're 4 numbers today. We look forward to a very interesting meeting, and thank you for having us.
And thank you, Director and delegation, for joining us. Real happy you could. Any other club in Division 24? I was at 23 East. 23 East. Okay, how about any club in Division 23 West? Any Kiwanis club in Division 23 West with us this evening? No? All right, well, let's move on to Division 23 Central.
Hi, good evening, PD Newton. How are you doing?
Hi, PD. You really see it. I am great as usual.
Great. Well, I am just scanning. See, I took a while because I was praying for someone else to come on, but the prayer has not connected as yet. So right now, it's myself, and I'm going to borrow LGD Desmond, who is a dual member. So we have a delegation of 2 members right now. visiting with you. So
Okay.
thank you for the invite, and I look forward to a very informative meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you and your delegation, even if it's borrowed, for being with us, and I'm pretty sure it will be an interesting evening. Thanks for being with us as usual.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other club from 23 Central? Any club from 23 Central? No? Okay, how about any SLP that is online? Any SLP? Okay, any guest of Kiwanian? Someone who was invited to be with us this evening by a Kiwanian?
Yes, good night. My name is Stacey Ann Carpenter from Spalding, Manchester. Invited by Kiwanian Jerby and Richards.
Okay, Stacey, and it's great that you I'm pretty sure others got the invitation and didn't accept. We're happy that you accepted. We're glad to have you with us, and you know, it's an open invitation. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, any other guests of Kiwanian? Okay, how about anyone else who wasn't invited by a Kiwanian but they joined us anyway? Anyone? Okay, well, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Wanted to say that there's more than one person from the Project Star team. So maybe
Okay.
Mr. Hylton might want to introduce them. Or what I know one is Kalanda, but ask Mr. Hylton to just introduce any other member of the Project Star team.
Okay. And maybe we should just let him do it at the beginning of his
No. He could do
You
it
want
now.
to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Hylton, you are, even before you're making your presentation, we're gonna ask you to just jump in and introduce the other members of your team that's with you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Damion Hylton is
You have him.
I am sorry, Mr. Hylton. I am having not hearing you clearly. I don't know if anyone else is hearing you clearly.
I am not also.
and I represent.
It seems like you have connectivity problems.
Senior Technical Project Officer, Wilmoth, Kalanda. Okay. Are you hearing me better now?
Sorry
Yes.
to break in.
Are you hearing me better?
Up.
Okay. All right. Let me take my camera off. Can you hear me better now?
Much better. Okay.
Apologies. Damion Hylton is the name. Senior Technical Project Officer with Project Star. I have another colleague here with me, Mr. Kalanda Wilmoth from Project Star as well. Kalanda, would you like to just indicate your role and function with Star? I don't think we have anybody else. I think it's just the two of us.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, Kalanda, I'm responsible for communication and donor management with Project Star. Happy to be with you this evening.
Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Hylton and Kalanda, it's a pleasure to have you. And as you know, you're in the center of the ring this evening, and I'm pretty sure you'll do it proud. Thanks for taking the time out to be with us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, and I know that the members online are really anxious to hear what you have to say, because as I said, when I looked at what Project Star is all about, it's very close to the heart of what Kiwanis is all about also. So I know the persons are, including myself, are anxious to hear. So let me turn it back to President Junior.
Yes. Thank you, P. Newton. And we all are anxious to hear, so we just move on. And this, yes.
Sorry, good evening, if I may, President. Just in addition to our delegation, we now stand at 7. 3 other members just joined, including DP Diane Harris, and we have 2 prospects online. So we are now 9 in numbers. Thank you so much.
Very
Club of
good.
New Kingston.
Very good. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting us know.
And we're
Okay.
glad to join you.
Okay.
We are glad to have you all. Okay. Apologies for absence, and I have one apology for absence. Is our VP Stephen. He's unable to make this evening's meeting. So are there any more apologies for absence at this time?
Yes, we also have apologies for absence from Pastor Easton McKinley, who's off the island.
Oh,
and
good.
from Treasurer Orville Lewis. In addition, a few SLP members sent me a message to say they're unable to attend a meeting tonight because of exams. The focus is on their internal, external exams.
Good, we understand. Thank you, dear G. Willie. Are there any more apologies for absence? If not, we'll just move into recognition of birthdays and anniversary. And we are going to ask again in the absence of VP Stephen, P.E. Newton.
Thank you. Thank you again, President Junior. And this week we have just 4 persons. And the first one up is past Chairman Lowell Mason, who actually celebrates his birthday today. Give him a call. The second person is DP.
About 9 o'clock tonight.
So, President Junior, Junior, we're here in your private conversation.
Yes.
You don't want to be bribed.
No.
All right. The second person on our list is DP Patrick Anderson, who celebrates his birthday on the 11th, which is 2 days from now. Next, we have Kiwanian Cleveland Williams, who celebrates his birthday on the 13th. And we also have Kiwanian Brian Richardson, who celebrates his birthday on the 15th. So those are the members of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston who are celebrating their birthdays this week. We want to wish them happy birthday when it comes, and many more in return. And, you know, in the usual spirit of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, we're going to ask anyone online who is celebrating a birthday and an anniversary, a special occasion, anything you think you want to share with us, you can, now is your opportunity to just open your microphone, let us know so that we can celebrate with you. Anyone?
Okay, this is Chair Ingrid. I just want to say that I will be celebrating with my daughter on Friday. She will be 20 and also will be graduating from college. So that's my celebration.
Wow. And I guess you are the proud mom.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And we are the proud associates. Tell her we say congratulate, happy birthday, congratulations, everything in one.
Okay, I will. She's here with me, but not on the meet. She's out there somewhere watching television.
Okay, well, tell her we thought about her and we spoke about her.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else with a special occasion? Well, that said, well, it's again back to you, President Junior.
And thank you again, PE. Okay, we'll move then into our Kiwanis education, and we have no other than LGD Desmond to do this for us. LGD.
Thank you, President Junior. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Today, we talk about elections, and this is from the standard form for club bylaws and policies. One meeting each year between January 1 and May 15 will be designated as the annual meeting for club elections. At least 30 days prior notice of the annual meeting must be given to members. And at least 1/3 of club members in good standing constitute a quorum. No less than a majority vote of the members present and voting is required to approve all business decisions. That's it for Kiwanis education, President.
And thank you again. Very appropriate. And I am reminding our members that our next meeting is our AGM, and we are inviting all, most if not all, to come out for that meeting. Okay. Now we are the main item of our agenda. And we are going to be asking Director David to do the introduction of our guest speaker, after which our Chairman will take over this session. Chairman Stewart will take over this session, and we'll have our guest speaker. So, Director David, are you ready for us? Director David?
I don't see him inside the room.
David is there. Okay, good, David.
Yes,
David,
President.
you're on, right?
Sorry?
You're on, right?
I'm on. Wait, my turn?
Yes, your turn, your turn.
Thank you.
Good.
So good evening, everyone. So thank you, President.
Yes.
Everyone. The task is mine to introduce our guest speaker. Our guest speaker this evening, Mr. Damion Hylton, Senior Technical Officer for Project STAR. He provides technical leadership to the community development and planning process of STAR. We thank him for stepping in, very late, short notice. And so we'll invite him if there's anything else he'd like to tell us about himself to afford us that this afternoon. So welcome and thank you, President.
Welcome.
Well, thank you very much,
Right.
Mr. President and
Right.
other members of the Kiwanis Club for the invitation to Project STAR to share with you this evening. I'm going to share my screen, if you would allow me to. Just share my screen as
Just
part
give me,
of the...
just give me 1 second.
Go ahead, Mr. Hylton.
Yes. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I will not utilize my camera because I gather that, because of the bandwidth issues that I may be having, using the camera may not allow for a free flow of this. Before, I am the Senior Technical Project Officer with Project STAR, and Project STAR is a social transformation and renewal project with an emphasis on social and economic transformation of communities, targeted communities in Jamaica. But before I get into the presentation of STAR, just want to commend the Kiwanis Club International, really, for the work that you have been doing in terms of advancing human development. The spirit and the ethos of the Kiwanis Club, as was said before, aligns with the priorities and the focus of Project STAR, because we believe that everybody can thrive, every person can be a part of something that is developmental and transformational, both at the community level and at the national level. And so I just want to commend you as you are about to celebrate your 64th year, correct? 64th year of work and service. And I definitely look forward to ways in which we perhaps would be able to collaborate in some shape or form to add value to the people of Jamaica and by extension, the people of the world. And so let's now get into Project STAR. So who are we? When we think about STAR, as I mentioned before, we're thinking about a social and economic transformation project. And we try to advance social and economic transformation by focusing on bringing everybody to the table. Our mantra, our tagline is everybody forward. And that was deliberate because we believe that it's going to take everybody, but we also believe that it is not everybody moving up per se, because once we have everybody moving up, it means that at some point in time, some people will be below others. We're not trying to create a system where anybody feels like they are below anybody. It's really a system and a movement where everybody is moving forward together. We recognize the importance of collaboration. We recognize the importance of partnership. And so the project itself is really a partnership that is being driven by the private sector organization of Jamaica and the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The project's vision really is centered on the belief that working together, we can transform Jamaica into a place where everyone is valued and has the opportunity to thrive. Everyone is valued and has the opportunity to thrive. And so we are currently working in communities to advance the social activity being given to communities that we consider under-resourced communities in pursuit of renewal. We have two major pillars under which we work in our communities, those being the social pillar and the economic pillar. We work in, as I mentioned before, a collaborative way and a consultative way, and we are big on ensuring that everything that is being done is done with community, it is done for community, and it is owned by community. Project STAR is a facilitator movement, facilitator program that seeks to create the ecosystem that allows for communities, ministries, departments, agencies together to advance communities and to hand over the stick, the proverbial stick of empowerment to communities so that communities can develop that kind of collective self-efficacy that is needed for sustainable development to take place. When you think of Project STAR and our program and what we are about, we are looking to focus on over the 5-year period of the project. It's a model out of the United Kingdom, which really looks at crime data and also violence-related injuries data that comes out of our hospitals. And when we look at the crime and the violence-related injuries data, we are able to look at communities and to determine which communities would have a higher ranking in terms of volatility and vulnerability based on those two parameters. And so we use the Cardiff model initially to identify the communities that we would prioritize for STAR's intervention. As mentioned before, we really are about partnerships. And so the partnership between the private sector and the JCF represents the main partnership, but throughout the project and its implementation in communities and just across the board, there is an emphasis on partnering with community organizations, sections at home and in the diaspora. We look at a range of proven interventions, again, being data-driven and evidence-based, so that we're not reinventing the wheel or duplicating efforts. We try to prioritize ensuring that we capitalize on existing programs or existing initiatives that work in communities or services that can be brought into communities to provide necessary and critical interventions where there are gaps, whether socially or economically. Now, the project, in terms of cost, will require an estimated $2 billion over 5 years. And so we have looked at mixed financing combining listing on the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, which allows for everybody to participate, everybody to invest in this kind of social change that we all want to see in our country. We also are supported by corporate donors, and we're looking to move into diaspora crowdfunding and also engaging multilateral agencies as the project, as the program unfolds, to support us in elements of funding for specific aspects of our programming. I don't want to just go through the presentation and not allow, but at any point in time, if there's anything that is said or raised that you want to have a question, feel free to raise your hand and I will accommodate same. I know that there's a question and answer segment at the end, but sometimes something may be fresh on your mind, and if you want to raise it, feel free to do so using the raise hand option. Now, when we consider sustainable development or sustainable transformation of the community from a STAR perspective, there are at least 9 things that we are clear on in terms of what must be prioritized. The first being community informed solution. The communities that we work in are actively done in their community for change to the communities. They are the experts. They know what the realities are. They know what needs to be done. And so it is important that they are a part of the solution, which facilitates increased buying and ownership. The project is also very responsive to local requirements and situations. And we have been very deliberate in creating that kind of space as a project for us to be able to pivot and to make changes where necessary, because each community is different. Each dynamic is different. There is no silver bullet. There's no one size fits all. And so we try to be as responsive to the local requirements and situations as possible. Again, we are big on using data, being evidence-based and problem-solving focused in our approach to community development and working with the stakeholders at the community level. Integrated, collaborative, multi-agent, because we know that we are a project with a timeline. And so invariably, a lot of the work that STAR will be advancing and delivering and supporting will have to be streamlined into the work of our ministries, departments, and agencies, or our community-based organizations for sustainability. Economic transformation, we see as a core pillar, because we know that in the past, a lot of emphasis has been placed on social transformation without treating with the local economic development needs of communities. The two things are not mutually exclusive. We cannot have social transformation without economic transformation. And so we have viewed economic transformation as central and a core pillar to the work focused. Even though our project is community-wide, we have prioritized strategizing for youth, recognizing the importance of youth engagement and youth participation in the process. And so a lot of the work that we do, even through utilizing sports and the arts, is focused on ensuring that there are pathways for youth to be involved in their community's development and participate in the governance. Relationships between the police and residents represents a critical area that the country has been grappling with for a long time. And we know that if we're going to have safe and secure communities, building sustainable relationships between the community and the JCF is paramount to achieving that. And so we, in working with the JCF as a partner, and in also working with the local police, with the communities, we are advancing, building community policing approaches and relationships towards that kind of shift in how citizenry and the police relate to each other. We're big on reporting and accountability, using a results-based approach to the project. So we have a monitoring and evaluation framework, and learning is the project is positioned in a way that learning is constantly taking place, and we have to capture these for future projects, but also so that we can concretize the models that work and represent those good or best practices that will be needed if we're going to scale this kind of model across more communities than STAR is currently targeting. And of course, mindset change, we believe, is an anchor for everything that will be done at the community level, because we can change a lot of things externally, but unless persons start to see themselves differently, unless persons start to view their community differently, unless there is a change in the perspective of even those of us who are practitioners in terms of how we view community and how we view people and how we view the development that is needed, then we're always going to be having the conversations about, you know, under-resourced communities. It's time that we start to think differently about what we do, how we do it, so that we can have a kind of collective expression of transformation and change in our communities, owned by our communities and supported. What you see on the screen, you know, the community of Parry Gardens and Rose Gardens in our communities in Savannah and Mar, and we're going to be entering May Pen. Now, when you see the spirit of the people, the enterprise of the people, the joy and the passion of the people, in spite of their circumstances, their challenge, hope, there is this sense of optimism that emanates among many of the people in our communities. And that is the kind of spirit that we want to evoke and we want to capitalize on as we work with communities to move them forward in terms of development. So, as mentioned before, we're not seeking to reinvent the wheel. A lot of work has been done in the social development and community development space. And so we have identified a menu of interventions across the lifespan that can be utilized in our communities to support the communities for the early years, from 0 to 6, adolescents, parents, persons who are identified these various interventions, social interventions, and through the community planning process, we work with our communities to identify what their specific needs are and what the specific resources and support systems that they would need are, so that we can tap into existing interventions or existing organizations who can come to the fore and support the process. Under the economic pillar, we really look at prioritizing 4 main areas. We look at the issue of unemployment, which is a top priority in most of our under-resourced communities. We look at strengthening the local entrepreneurial framework by seeking to help to formalize and to support a number of small enterprises in the communities. We also look at financial inclusion as a complementary aspect of entrepreneurship and employment. And then we look at strategic financial investments in communities, bringing business from the outside in order to create a kind of ecosystem of economic development in the community that allows for the community to thrive and develop economically while at the same time addressing their social challenges. As mentioned before, we are currently in Savannah and Mar, May Pen. We're entering May Pen in another month or so, and we're also in East Downtown Kingston, namely Parade Gardens and Rose Gardens. A big part of what we do as STAR is try to strengthen governance frameworks in communities as part of the community ownership. And one of the structures that we prioritize is a community transformation board. Now, the community transformation board is made up of community-based organizations or institutions and interest groups in the communities that come together to act as a steering committee for Project STAR at the community level. Each community will have its own community transformation board. And through the community transformation board, we are able to look at the data and what the data is saying concerning the challenges of the community, the root causes, and so on and so forth. And also take that information and use now the lived experiences of the community, that which is not empirical, right? But at the same time adds value to the data that we would have gathered. And then when we put those things together, we're able to come up with the community transformation plans, which will become the work plan for the Community Transformation Board. In other words, what STAR will support the community on in delivering a suite of interventions that we believe through this consultative process will lead to the kind of change or contribute to the kind. We have a 8-step process in terms of community entry, as you can see on screen, from the mapping of the community right down to the process of community consensus on their transformation plan and the implementation of that plan. So throughout this 8-step process, we ensure that the community is actively involved. Notice early engagement and activation planning is step 2. Local stakeholder engagement, step 3. Community-led, STAR-supported community-wide information and engagement. Throughout this process, the community is at the center of it. STAR is really just facilitating. This must be community informed, community led, and community owned. When we think of the facilitating and helping to drive collaborative, evidence-based approaches to improve social and economic outcomes at the community level, that's what we really are about. And in terms of our medium-term outcomes, we are really seeking to mainstream integrated. 1, 2, we want to create communities in Jamaica that are safer and more resilient with improved social outcomes and reduced levels of poverty, to become more purposeful, better informed, and equipped for contributions to transformational change. And some of that will include some institutional capacity building within the government services, but also some non-government organizations also working together and creating the kind of synergy and collaboration that will allow for the kind of meaningful and sustained impact that we are going for under the project. Some of the key indicators that are used by STAR to measure our outputs, we look at the number of community members who are trained through our partnerships with the ART, NSTA, and other agencies of government. We'll also look at the number of persons gaining employment. As mentioned before, employment is one of our pillars under the broader economic transformation component. To date, we have been able to train 48 residents in East Downtown Kingston, and we are happy to report that of that 48, 24 are currently employed, and another 24 are being prepared for interviews and are going to be transitioning into employment as a result of the project. We also provide psychosocial support to our focus on psychosocial interventions, and we have social workers that are aligned to STAR and are in each of the communities that we will work. And so the number of persons who access psychosocial support services is also measured. Even with this project, on the overall in major crime, not as something that STAR will take full responsibility for creating, but to demonstrate kind of change. We look at the number of residents who are involved in the community planning process. because as I said earlier, we believe in the community-led, community-owned concept of community transformation and development. We're not taking a top-down approach. We're taking a bottom-up approach, recognizing, of course, that they will need support from all the different stakeholders who are involved in the process. We look at school attendance rates, number of persons accessing financial services, number of beneficiaries and youth engaged in STAR programs, percentage change in violence-related injuries, and also increase in the number of projects being implemented by the community through their community review, learning, and improvement. So at every step of the project, we are engaging our communities, whether it is through our town halls that we host, or it is through the capturing of data from Ghana, from the different stakeholders that we work with. We're all about achieving substantive and sustained change at the community level. And this is demonstrated by an ongoing accountability and reporting system. You may be asking yourself, so how do you manage all of this?
Yeah, breaking up, Mr. Hylton. I don't know if you could.
Sorry, Damion, you're breaking up really badly.
Kalanda, let me just come in a second.
Yeah.
Damion, let me just come in a second, please.
Well,
Mr. Hylton, could you just pause a second? Mr. Hylton, could you just pause a second?
Governance.
Could you just pause a second, Mr. Hylton?
Yeah,
I was just wondering if Kalanda, do you probably have a better connectivity?
Sure.
Whenever you have come in, I've heard you clearly. And
yes.
I'm sure you are familiar with the project.
I am. So
could you step in and just, because we're not getting everything.
Sure, I can do that. Just give me 1 second. Let me bring up the presentation, and I don't know where I'd start back from though, but let me try.
Just a little further back, that's all.
Start presentation. All right.
Good.
Okay, I think this is where he was. We were talking a little bit about the indicators, right? But I don't know if you wanted me to go back.
Okay, take it from there.
To maybe here. Okay.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Okay. All right, let me just do this so that it's better. Okay, so our main goal, the goal of STAR, as you said, is to facilitate and help to drive an effort that is collaborative, focused on evidence and working toward improving the social and economic outcomes at the community level. We say it that way because we know the work in community many times. I mean, whenever we talk about Project STAR and the work we're doing in community, we get questions from people about why you're not coming to this community or that community. We often talk about the approach that we take and how we use data to help us to determine where to go. There is a focus, reduction in the levels of violence, which you see as the number 2 one there, because we hold true that an indication of an escalation in violence is actually an indication that the community is in decline. And so if that trend holds in a bit, we will see violence. And so we'll see crime. And so we target the communities based on evidence. But one of the things that we want is to implement the STAR model across Jamaica in collaboration with the various partners and MDAs, and then have that model become a model for community development, one that is focused on being very inclusive, being rigorous about the approach that we take, and very integrated. And so if we could get that to be the model for community development across all communities beyond STAR, then we would have achieved outcome number one. And so we talked about number two. We definitely want to have a focus on the reduction of violence, but most importantly, we want to be able to improve the resilience of community members. And we're very confident about the implementation of that. Damion talked a little earlier about the jobs in terms of our job creation model. And our job creation model as part of the economic transformation and employment model is one of the ways that we are able to increase the resilience of community members. And while you increase the resilience in terms of the risk, you reduce the risk of violence and reduce the risk of sliding into vulnerability and risk and just being at risk. Because there are conditions that sometimes simply living in the community places you at risk for XYZ. And so when we are able to increase resilience and reduce risk, then the results that we're looking for, tend to follow in the way that we're thinking. I think he was going through some of the indicators. For us, it's, again, the engagement of community members, looking specifically at being community members that are trained. We're talking about people who are gaining employment. And for us, it's not just about getting a job, but being in an environment where it's a quality job, where you can access benefits of employment. And it's not that people get a job now and then they've been fired but it's someone who's in the job after 6 months, after 12 months, after 24 months. We operate in each community 3 to 4 years at a time with the community. And so we're tracking these things. And so for us, number of community members gaining employment is something that we would track. Number of community members accessing psychosocial support services. That sort of thing even comes within our employment program as well, where we actually do a screening of community members before we even do a job readiness training. We screen people to be able to make a determination of who is really ready for work. Sometimes people are experiencing so much trauma and just a disconnectedness that trying to get someone in a structured working environment is, when they're not ready, doesn't actually benefit the person and clearly creates more problems for the employers and so on. So we try to, our program is set up so that we have a social worker attached to each community that's doing case management. And so we lean in on the duty of care. Our employment program works through 9 steps. There's a 9-step process, which includes working with the employees that we place in the job after up to a year. We do post-employment up to a year. Work. Sorry, somebody's mic is open.
Oh, please. Your mic, somebody's mic is open.
I'm sorry, I just muted everyone. Kalanda, can you just unmute yourself? Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Right. And so, I was just explaining to you in terms of the psychosocial support and how we integrate that into the work that we're doing. The percentage of change in major crimes well, this one says East Downtown Kingston, but it cuts across all communities. The number of residents involved in the community planning process, clearly that's an indication that speaks directly to the community transformation board process that Damion explained, where the community stakeholders are engaged. They are the ones that are going to monitor the work that's happening in their community after they've established these plans. And so the number of residents involved is another indication for us about the success rate and that sustainability plan. School attendance rates. We are currently in East Downtown Kingston with a school feeding program that's supported by 2 of our donors, Rainforest and Musson Foundation. And we know the importance, and that's at the early childhood institutions, about 4 such schools across the communities, the neighborhoods of Parade Gardens and Rose Gardens. Very critical. We would have done a mapping, or we have the data to support how many children are not attending school because of not having, in terms of a nutritional deficit or barrier. And so we specifically were able to implement a program that could address the needs of those nearly 30 students that were identified. And as a consequence of being able to put that program in place, the schools that were intending to increase the fees for the lunch across the board, because fees, all these inputs have gone up, they have agreed to hold the prices. So a wider community of over 200 children are now benefiting from the school feeding program. And we're doing that so that we can impact the school attendance rates, because we know how important it is to have the children in schools. And then, you know, in keeping them in schools, we're then able to now layer onto that, tracking their actual academic performance, and where we see that we need, we can be more responsive to a need, then we go further and do that. But school attendance rate is one of the things we'll track. Again, people accessing financial services, the number of beneficiaries, engage in youth programs, the percentage of change in the VRIs, and a number increase in the number of projects that are being implemented. This CPP here refers to the community planning process and the community transformation plans that the communities would have agreed. And so we will be looking at ensuring that the projects they agree to are being implemented. And again, that speaks to our sustainability and the success. We are a learning project as well, as in, you know, we deliberately integrate a process of learning throughout. So that means we pause at different intervals and evaluate what we've learned and modify where we need to, or make the necessary adjustments to the project, so that we're not, you know, going down the road and have no sense that something is deep in the development and may not be working, or you know, we may need to have more dialogue about something in a specific way, etc. So we have those as a core part of how we operate. We pause and look at the learnings and go again. And the benefit of that is, as we implement in one community and we learn some of the variables that pertain to, you know, trying to have a community transformation board set up. Do you need to do it faster in here versus there? What are some of the things that could prevent you from doing it? So as we go to each community, we take the lessons from the one before, where there's commonality in the effort, and we apply those lessons so that we are able to be more effective in our implementation. This gives you a sense of how the project is structured. At the top, where we have the project oversight board, that is co-chaired by Keith Duncan and Commissioner Anderson. We have a management monitoring and reporting committee that keeps us in line and keeps us in check. That's co-chaired by Tyrone Handa from KPMG and Ian Nita from Yellow, former president of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. This people engagement and culture committee is chaired by Donna Duncan Scott. We've got a fundraising committee, which Keith Duncan drives. We've got an implementation committee, which was, I think, yeah, it was Peter Melhedo had served here for a little bit. I think someone else is coming on to drive that in just a little while. We have our economic transformation working group. That's where our job creation and all of our economic transformation activities take place. That one is co-chaired by Keith and Ian Nita. And then we have our youth advisory group. Over here, our technical stakeholder group consists of the ministries, departments, and agencies. So you're looking at your JCF, SDC, PIOJ, Citizen Security, Tech Secretariat, HART, etc. So we work alongside them every step of the way, again, toward the goal of being able to mainstream the community planning process that is integrated, rigorous, and inclusive. And so we make sure that we work along with the MDAs to create that. Again, here our feedback loop. We work all the way. So the community transformation boards, which are the implementation components of at the community level. So this is how they sit on the, and so the feedback loop goes up to here, and we feedback down, and we constantly work to improve what's being implemented and tracking the results and so on. And then we have our project implementation unit, which is supported by the project management of STAR. This is what our fundraising looks like. We intend to raise 350 from private sector, diaspora 300 million. This is Jamaican money. Multilaterals, we're aiming for about 700 million. And with our JSSE listing, which is coming up in June of this year, where we're, as Damion said, we invite a wider base of participation from the Jamaican population, and we are getting support from the brokers. So we are going to implement, I suspect, Jamaica's first social IPO, and we are going to be, you can invest in STAR social stock. So if you are already investing on the stock exchange, your broker is likely to reach out to you to propose that you can invest in a better Jamaica. You can invest in a better tomorrow by buying the STAR social stock through this effort on the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange. And thankfully, because private sector has quite a bit of confidence in the effort, we have this 350 million is something we're supposed to raise over the next 5 years, and we've so far gotten commitments closer to 290 million right now, and we continue to engage and reach out, and we're working a pipeline of quite a number of corporates who have expressed some interest and are in the decision-making phase. We also reach out to any leaders on the call just now who would want to be able to give some consideration to STAR and, supporting us. I think this is a bit of a recap of where we are in terms of our social, economic, and cultural mindset change as the 3 core pillars of the project. So this is how you can get involved. Obviously, we would love a public endorsement of STAR from the various companies. We could offer integration of STAR into your own company's CSR program. There are different ways that we can do that. I mentioned the school feeding program from those food providers, Musson and Rainforest, that fits in as part of their own CSR. And it's a project, it's a component we are monitoring, and we'll provide them with reports so they can report to their board. So, they get to implement their projects within an overall transformation effort. So that's also something that's on offer for companies that are interested. Then there is also the job creation. We are looking for employer partners. As I explained, our process involves working with the employers to help to create the environment where the community members can thrive. And so we would love to have further conversations with any entity that might be keen to have become a STAR employer. And of course, how we work, we're not suggesting that you must employ the people who we work with. We have a job readiness program that we implement, so we can work through that with you, and then we prepare the candidates for an interview, and they sort of take it from there. We're not saying that because you're an employer, everybody who we send you're going to employ. We understand that that's not how business works. And so what we're doing, you can understand our process. We learn to understand your process, and then we work together to make it happen. Would definitely love for you to help raise awareness about STAR, and where possible, make a contribution to what we're doing, because we believe that with collective action across the society, we can realize a shared vision of a Jamaica in which everybody is valued and everybody has the opportunity to thrive. That's Project STAR.
Thank you, Kalanda. Tell me your last name again. Wilmoth. Wilmoth. Okay. And thanks to Damion and Hylton. Oh, sorry you had such problems with your connectivity. But there are a number of questions that I could think of. But we're gonna open the floor, and I will come in between. So I will recognize the hand that is up. But first I will say thank you for both of you for at least giving us a good idea of what Project STAR is really about. The first person I see is Marsha. Can't make out her last name, but anyway, she knows who she is. She has her hand up. Okay. You could go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. This is Kiwanian Marshalling from the Kiwanis Club of West St. Andrew. I'm sorry I arrived a little bit late, but could you just give me some information or just clarify what, in terms of the project, what the project is doing in relation to maladjusted children, especially boys? And I'm asking because I'm from a community that has been plagued by this problem. I'm from Maypen in Clarendon, specifically in the Farm Effortville area. And from anecdotally, I can tell you that the issue of poor parental authority in the home has been a perennial problem down there. And I've seen over the years where the link with that causes a lot of degeneration into antisocial behavior and eventual criminality for a lot of young boys over the years. So if you could just expound more on how this project is adjusting that matter, where the boys are not being raised to prepare for the demands of life. There is a high level of maladjustment, I would say, from my observation over the years. How does the project plan to tackle that specific issue? Because I think there's a connection.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to Damion to take this, but but if there's something else to add, Maypen is one of our target communities, but I don't think we're going to be in Effortville, or what's the other one you said, Marshall?
Yeah, it's the same
The
space.
Effortville Farm area.
Farm is what space?
Seventh Road.
Oh, is the same?
Seventh Road.
Are we going to be in that community, Damion?
No,
No,
based on the work that we'll be doing, we'll not be in the immediate area of Effortville and Farm. But to your question though, Marsha, is it Marsha?
Yes, go ahead, Marshalling, yes.
Marshalling.
Right. All right. So to your question, the process of community intervention for us is driven by the community planning process. And so with the communities that we'll be working in, we will be looking at the specific developmental challenges that these communities have. And so where a community has identified, for example, poor parenting and the impact of poor parenting on children in the community as a priority issue, then we will support that community in terms of building out the kind of interventions and programs to address those issues. So if a community has identified what you described as a major priority issue through the community transformation process, then STAR will, in collaboration with the communities, ministries, department, agencies of government, and non-government organizations as well, prioritize that kind of intervention. While we have programs, the social pillar and the economic pillar, and through our social pillar, we do some psychosocial support work through schools, through churches in the community, through our own social workers. A large part of our programming will be specific to community priority needs. So it's not a case that we have a general approach that is going to address what you described. But if the community needs are aligned with what you described, then we will prioritize supporting those kind of interventions.
Right, because STAR, we don't take a prescriptive approach, Marceline, where we say, oh, this is the issue that we want to address, and then we just go and do it. We like we said earlier, we work to be very responsive to the local requirements of the spaces we're working in.
Okay. Thank you for those responses. I hope Marceline was satisfied. But let me ask you though, what she asked, it didn't appear to be a unique situation to her community. Are you telling me that this is not a common situation in any community that you are targeting? Yeah, it sounds as if.
Well, the situation is common. Right. The situation is common to the extent that poor parenting has been identified as a cause and effect of many of the issues in our community. However, each community's expression of that particular developmental challenge and how to treat with that developmental challenge may differ. And so we do have a general problem with our males, the young men in our communities, boys. We have a general problem where that is concerned. STAR's approach, while we do focus on some interventions that will include young men, our approach is a community ecosystem approach. So we look at the community as a whole. We are not specifically focused on any cohort of the community. The issue of maladaptive behaviors among young men is something that has to be tackled through partnerships with our schools, with our churches, with other institutions in the community, through the utilization of sports as a vehicle for social cohesion and inclusion, and, you know, addressing other psychosocial issues. So there's a sense in which there will always be that kind of touch and that kind of reach for this target group. But at the same time, the project is very clear that each community has to be able to clearly define what are its current realities, even if the problem is a problem that is a feature across many communities.
Okay, I appreciate that. I wondered if you can just, you mentioned a couple of communities. Could you even tell us, for example, when the program, or rather, I didn't hear, when the program actually started? And if you could give us an idea of, you mentioned Maypen, and I think there's one further to the west and so on. But just tell us where you are, and also give us an idea of some of the successes, or is it too early to look at successes?
Okay, well, I'll take one part and then have Damion take the other bit. So we are in currently East Downtown Kingston, specifically in the neighborhoods of Parade Gardens and Rose Gardens. We have started as well in Sav, and we're specifically west of Darling Street for neighborhoods Seaton Crescent, Cook Street, Newmarket Oval, and I'm sure I'm forgetting the other one, which Damion will tell me right now. And then we will be in Maypen. Well, we've started the work in Maypen because part of our work begins with mapping the location to provide the type of insight about what's really going on there. Then we have an opportunity to look beneath the data. So we map the community. I would have Damion would have introduced you to the way we decide on a community using an extension on the Cardiff model, which is a model outside of the UK that looks at violence prevention methodology. So we extended on that. And so we look at crime data, specifically looking at major crimes, more specifically murders and shootings as part of the profile of major crimes, violence-related injuries data, and then we layer on a couple of other social indicators, such as community members that may be on path, what level of education is in that community, what is the data telling us about violence against children, what do we know about vulnerable groups in the community. That kind of data, those data sets are what informs our decision to go into a community. And then we go, and based on consultation along with the JCF and other key stakeholders, we would then narrow down the specific neighborhoods that we would work in. Because we do look at other things such as the geographic location. We wouldn't be in a space that has more people than more than 15,000 people. We wouldn't be in a space that is heavily commercial, so we call points of interest. So if there's more than 500 points of interest, it's too commercial for a community intervention to happen. So we have very specific variables that we consider to select a community and then the work that we do. So we've started that work in Maypen, and we've sort of narrowed down the specific geographic locations that we're going to work, but we haven't started doing any interventions in those spaces yet. In terms of early successes, I'll hand over to Damion.
Damion?
Thanks, Kalanda. So the other space is Harmony in South. That's the fourth district in the South area that we're working in. So in terms of successes, as I would have mentioned earlier, under our economic program, we have activated our employment, workforce development aspects of the employment program. And we have trained to date 48 residents in East Downtown Kingston in life skills, job readiness, resume writing, just preparing them for the work world. And we're happy to report that 24 persons of that group has already been placed in employment. And when we say employment, we're talking about quality employment, employment that is aligned with their interests, skills, and certification. And so that's one positive to report on to date. Also, we want to identify as a success the use of sports as a vehicle for community engagement and development. In East Downtown Kingston, which is our first community, we have been supporting a kind of organic community sporting activity every Sunday using this street corner football as a vehicle for young men, some of whom are at risk, to be engaged in kind of positive community activity, 3 of whom transition from that particular activity into the employment program and are now getting ready to move into employment. We also view as a success the process of our stakeholders, the ministries, departments, and agencies buying into the project and committing themselves to supporting the project. And so we have a community, what we call a technical stakeholder working group, which is made up of the Planning Institute of Jamaica through their community renewal program, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the various entities of the government that are important to the community development process, sitting on that technical committee and helping to drive the decision-making aspects of Project STAR. And that's a major thing, because a big problem in the development space is the issue of a lack of coordination and collaboration. And STAR has been able to bring the different players together to sit at the table and to work together. We have been in the communities now since September. And so we are under a year in terms of community entry and implementation. The project is, however, just about in its first year. At the end of this month, we would have completed 1 full year of the project, starting from project inception to now we're in actual implementation. And so we believe that, you know, with a short period of time that we've been able to work, the indicators so far are pointed in the right direction.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the time element was critical. So it's just a year. Okay, I don't see a hand up, but does anyone have another question? Because I don't want to, I have some other things that I want to raise, but I want to make sure everybody from the floor who may want to ask a question, even if you haven't put your hand up yet, can go ahead. Who would like to?
DP Stewart, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Marilyn here.
Yes,
Damion, Kalanda, good presentation. I've learned a little bit more, not a little bit, quite a bit more about the STAR project. But I want to ask you, in these communities, how have the Dons reacted to this intervention in their place where them run things?
Which one do you want to take that?
Or anyone who feels they can.
No, I'm asking that.
Yeah, Damion will take that.
Okay, all right. Interestingly, I mean, while we have had to engage gatekeepers and some persons who we would call violence producers in the community, we really have not. You like those terms? They're more sanitized terms, to be honest.
Absolutely.
We have not necessarily had any interfaces with quote unquote dons that have been aggressive or I would say disruptive to the process. We would have incorporated the use of violence interrupters in East Downtown Kingston because the community was in an active state of violence. At least the Rose Gardens community, which is part of the space that we work in. And so through our violence interrupters, we would have engaged a number of the players who are actively involved in some of the untoward activities in the community, primarily to kind of create space for the project to deliver its work. But we have not had the experience of previous projects to date where there has been any threat or any undue resistance to the work of STAR. And we kind of give credit to the engagement process because we are very deliberate in terms of going into the community through community open days, which really allows us to walk the community, interact with the residents, interact with different stakeholders in their immediate environment. We have engaged the political directorate to ensure that there is buy-in and to be clear that STAR's approach is an apolitical approach. And so even through their own endorsement of the project, the JCF and our partnership with the JCF working in the communities through the Community Safety and Security Branch and being actively on the ground with them in their capacity as community-based police has helped us tremendously, I believe, to navigate some of these spaces. And we hope that our experience will remain the same, that we will not be interfacing with the kind of gunmanship that will disrupt the project.
Absolutely wonderful to hear. And I'm so happy that your planning went drill down that deep so that you have your things lined up. Good show. Bless you.
Thank you, Marilyn. I was a little curious in terms of you want to raise a lot of money, and I'm thinking, where do you see the money being spent? What it's not, is it in structures? Is it in training? Is it, I mean, it may be all of the above, but what I'm saying is, where have you had to actually put out funds?
Sorry, that's a question around, sorry, ask the question again for me, please.
Yeah, what I was trying to get at is, obviously I'm trying to raise a lot of money and obviously it's needed, but I'm trying to figure, where are you going to be spending this? What type of, I mean, you talked about the employment and the training. I don't know if there are structures, I'm just trying to figure out where would you be spending the money to make the kind of impact that you want? What kind of, how would that be spent?
Okay, well, we are spending money on all of the initiatives to support the activities that so we would spend on the mapping within the communities, the coordinated activities that are, even as Damion talk about the sporting activities, although the sporting activities have that sort of organic effect of the community members coming out and playing. We support with other ways in terms of providing whether it be water or gear or any kind of equipment. We provide transportation to, if we take them on an excursion. The training that we talked about in terms of preparing the 48 so far, those are there are expenses related to delivering that training, which we spend on, and various other forms of all the work that's in the community, that all of our coordinating activities, we finance quite a bit of that. So we spend on getting the delivery of the work. So if we have to have a team out in SAV delivering, whether it be data collection or hosting a reasoning session or hosting a series of meetings with stakeholders to get at the problem, all the expenses related to the personnel in the community. Each community has a project officer and a social worker to, as I said, do all of the case management that needs to happen with the community members that are engaged. And so that's where a lot of the money goes.
One thing that I wanted to just follow up on. I remember a presentation made by Dr. Herbert Neal to us in terms of he was explaining where some of he was explaining how some of the situations with respect to crime come about. And you're saying, for example, where there are homes, maybe single parent, but it doesn't have to be, and they're struggling. And if they can't find food to feed the boys, or well, the children, let's put it that way, that is sometimes a stimulus for the boys to go out and hustle and get an interface with criminal elements. And if we are pointing out that what really needs is for resources to go in to help that family or those families so that they are not, well, I like the term you use about under-resourced, but that's an example of families being under-resourced. Is any of the resources going into that type of situation? You know, that's what I'd like to ask.
So I think that, all right, so in terms of understanding how STAR's programming is delivered, under our social pillar, we look at things like social protection and services. We recognize that there are a number of families in communities, as Dr. Gale would have indicated, that for whatever reasons are unable to meet the basic needs of that family unit. And so it increases the risk levels for the persons in that family. One of the things we prioritize is to, one, link families to existing social protection systems of the state, because that's part of what the state delivers. Two, to link persons in that household who would qualify for employment based on their age and also based on their interest, to employment opportunities, which again adds an opportunity for income generation, wealth creation, and poverty reduction for persons in that household. Then we also have programming that looks at the psychosocial needs within that family, and how through our programming those psychosocial needs could be met, whether it is through referring persons to existing programs of support or providing some amount of that support through our own social work team that works in the communities on the ground. So what I just described to you represents a kind of holistic support mechanism through the programming of STAR. It wouldn't be a case that we're necessarily going into communities and looking for, say, 5 or 6 families that fit the description that you just described and provide direct financial resourcing to that family. Some of that may happen from time to time, through whether it is care packages that come as a part of a social service support, but everything is programmed in a way that allows for a holistic kind of support to get to the residents in the communities targeted, and also for effective monitoring and evaluation of how we are delivering STAR. Invariably, you're going to find situations where there are some households that STAR by itself and STAR through its programming will not be able to impact. And so we have to create those linkages with the existing state actors, state resources that persons can actually benefit from.
Okay, anybody else wants to get in? We're getting close to wrapping up now. We're gonna have to wrap up shortly, but I want to give the opportunity to anyone who has not had a chance and would like to ask a question. Okay, going once.
Well, I mean, Cherie Brzezinski had asked what are examples of the programs to combat the issue of poor parenting. And for your question, Cherie, I mean, in our suite of programs that we would have shared earlier, there are a number of interventions that would have been identified. So there are organizations that we have worked with, such as Rise Life Management Services, that provide counseling support to parents and family-based support based on a referral system. There's also Children's First, whose programming is largely based on a kind of projectized approach, but they have an emphasis on family life and addressing issues at the community level, such as domestic violence and abuse of children, and how parents ought to appropriate the Child Care and Protection Act in the delivery of their own parenting. At the community level, we also have institutions or organizations that are doing work. I make reference to Life Yard, that is a local group that actually does a lot of work with children and parents in the Parade Gardens community, towards actually building resilience and building the capacity of parents and children to better function. And so there are a number of interventions, many of which focus on really trying to build capacity of parents, but we realize that we can't treat with the issue of poor parenting without treating with all the different variables that impact the parent, whether it is economic, social, psychological, cultural, and mindset. And so that's why our programming is so broad and holistic, because we realize that we can't just focus on any one thing if we're going to really drive the kind of change that we want to see, whether at the individual, family, or community level.
Okay, well, I think that's it. I don't see any hands up. So I think at this point, I'm going to call on VP Chris, who is slated to give the vote of thanks to you both. VP Chris.
Thank you, DP Stewart. Fellow Kiwanians, visitors, good evening. There's a calypso which says that a deputy is essential. And if we never believed it before, we certainly will believe it tonight, because on 2 occasions, since this program was planned, we had to get a deputy to assist. You know, originally we were supposed to have the project director, Miss Saffrey Brown, and she wasn't able to attend, and she called on her assistant, her deputy, Mr. Damion Hylton. And as those of you were on the call this evening because of collection issues, Mr. Hylton had to get a deputy to assist him in Mr. Kalanda Wilmoth. And all this, you know, just to show that if you are well prepared as a Boy Scout, you know, nothing will deter you. So I congratulate everyone, and I, you know, was originally asked to do a vote of thanks to one person, but tonight I will, you know, thank both Mr. Hylton and Mr. Wilmoth, sorry, for what they have presented this evening. You know, as I sat and I listened, you know, the word transformation was a very key word tonight, because basically what these gentlemen were telling us about is a program which is aimed at transforming, you know, a number of our communities and the persons in our communities, you know, and to put them on a better path. You know, the whole business of collaboration, you know, was very important, and empowering the persons within the communities was that, you know, is what is going to make the transformation possible. You know, we know the social issues which are in the society. You know, we as Kiwanians, we are very much acquainted with some of these things which are happening, and so we are very happy to have heard this presentation tonight. And certainly, I'm sure that coming out of this presentation, the leaders of our club will be thinking of ways that they can work along with the group in ensuring that Project STAR becomes a success, as we all would like it to be. You know, as they went through the presentation, a couple of things hit me. And I looked at some of the slides which they had. And as you look at some of the slides of what they hope to achieve, one of the things they talk about is what do they regard as some key indicators of success. In the business world, we talk about key performance indicators. And these indicators of success, which they highlighted, are similar. And indeed, as I listened, I was reminded of a presentation or an article I read, really, which says that KPIs, your key performance indicators, really, so for them to be successful, you have to ensure that you keep people informed, you keep people involved, you keep people interested, and you keep people inspired. And indeed, as I looked at what the project hopes to attain, and think of them in terms of the informed, involved, and inspiration and interesting, I think your goals meet up those 4 criteria. And so I just want to, on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, thank you sincerely, Mr. Hylton and Mr. Wilmoth, for your presentation tonight. I think we are, and those persons who are on the call are so much better informed as a result. And, we have a certificate of appreciation which was done up for Mr. Hylton, but I'm sure our project chair, DP Stewart, will make sure that one is also done up for Mr. Wilmoth.
Definitely.
So that you can have something for appreciation for the discussion and the presentation that you have given here tonight. And more importantly, for the eye-opening type of approach that you have instituted to make sure that transformation takes place in many of our under-resourced communities. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you, DP Chris. And I heard they did this one for Mr. Hylton when I got that information, and I will also be doing one for Kalanda. So you're quite right. Back to you, President Junior. You might be muted.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for a wonderful presentation. Certainly, as we have said, we are very much more informed than what you are doing in Project STAR. And we'll be following and we'll be seeing in which way we could collaborate as well with you to assist in what you are doing. And thank you again, I must say. Okay. Our next item is a report of the nominations committee for officers and directors. DLG stand. DLG stand. This is the next item on the agenda. Reports of the nominations committee for officers and directors. DLG, really, is DLG stand on?
I don't believe he's on. I'll just probably just give you a brief reminder of what early on during Kiwanis education, LG elect Desmond Batchelor referred to the criteria that are required. And certainly at this meeting tonight, This is 1 week before AGM, which has been held next week. We also accept nominations from the floor for any of the positions. But before I do that, let me just remind members on the call that for President, we have President-elect Newton Ramdiel, President-elect Vice President Stephen Gregg, Vice President Past Director Garfield Wynn, and for Treasurer Alvin Lewis. Retiring second-year directors are Director David Hall and Director Chris Robinson. Returning directors, first-year directors are Oreen Gordon, Errol Hamilton, Dalma James, and Warren McDonald. So far, we have 2 directors that have been nominated, Chairman Andrew Burton, as well as Andrew Arsenia Sawyers. If there are any person wishing to make a nomination from the floor this evening, you may go ahead and do so, but you also have opportunity next week before the elections to make nominations from the floor. Just a reminder that the secretary, unless he is appointed by the incoming president, will be elected at the club's annual general meeting by majority vote. And as LG-elect Desmond mentioned, at least 1/3 of the members in good standing constitute a quorum. So President Junior, we have the basis of our new administration for 2003 to 2004. If,
Yes.
however, there are any nominations on the floor, you may do it next week if you wish. Over to
Okay.
you, President Junior.
Yes, and thank you, DLG, Willie. And should I ask, are there any other nomination at this point in time? Any other nomination? For the 3rd time, any other nomination? If not, we'll close nomination for this week. And you will so have the opportunity to do so next week again. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, DLG, Willie. Sarge. Is our Sarge on? I did.
Thank you, President Junior.
Okay.
Having a long day, it still continues. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
I won't be able to come on camera this evening. If there are any objections, that's a fine of $500 for the objector. Thank you all for your patience and understanding. I'm going to be very quick, very brief this evening.
Yes.
So, DLG Willie, we're throwing the book at
Sarge
you.
here is anonymous. It's an iPhone Sarge. No name.
Because of circumstances beyond my control, I never got home in time, so I never got to log on as I usually do. So I apologize.
Yes.
But like I said, if you're objecting, DP Chris, $500. So I was at DLG Willie, throwing the book at you this week. So not only for your infringements, but also for infringements of the president.
Yeah.
So let me do a quick rundown. For adding a new member, DP Stuart Spencer, as well as new member LGD Desmond Ramdiel, and the creation of a new day in the week, Saturday. So, and the president only acknowledged VP Stephen Gregg at the meeting last week. I did not welcome other members in the same way. That's also a charge. So DLG Willie, for all those infringements, $1,000.
All right.
Thank you,
Chairman Siddiqui and P.E. Newton for conspiracy to defame the Sarge, $300 each. And DP Chris for his suggestion of bigamy in response to the infringement of DLG Willie, also $300. And Director David Hall for failure to have his presentation at the meeting last week, $300. Have a great evening, everyone.
And thank you so much, Sarge.
Thank you, Sarge.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sarge.
Yes. Okay, notices and announcement and interclubbing opportunity. LGD Desmond is
No.
I
Over to
DLG.
me again, President.
Eh?
Just over to me. Just a
Okay.
reminder again.
Right.
Next week Tuesday is the annual general meeting, and we were going to be trying to do all that's possible to bring out our members, certainly our paid up members,
Yes.
to be involved in the election process. Just a reminder that East Tennessee District Convention, Quebec City, Quebec, begins on May the 18th and goes through to the 20th. Registration is now closed. In terms of interclubbing opportunities, just to let you know that on Thursday, that's May the 11th, Kiwanis Club of Nation Builders Kingston will be having an induction ceremony at which time they'll be inducting 4 new members. As the members know, this is the newest club in Division 23 Central, which was sponsored by Kiwanis Club of Kingston, whilst DP Paul was president. President Junior, that's all. Announcements and interclubbing opportunities for the time being. You may want to ask members on the call, whether visiting clubs, whether they have any announcements.
Right. Other clubs visiting with us, are there any quick announcement that you'd like to make at this point in time? You can go ahead.
You have one.
Eh?
I think Montego Bay will have one.
Okay. Let us have it at this time. No? Any other announcements from
Good evening, everyone.
clubs? Yes. Good evening.
Good evening. All right, this is Kiwani and Ava Maria from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay and
Yes.
local. I am inviting each and every one of you on the meeting this evening on the platform, your spouses, your partners, your friends, your colleagues, your co-workers, everyone to come out and enjoy an evening of retro vibing with the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay this Saturday, May 13 at the Caribbean Showplace. Tickets are only $2,000, $2,500 at the gate. So for those journeying from Kingston, from Clarendon, from Maypen, from Manchester, all over the island to come and party with us, you are all welcome, and we're looking forward to you coming out in full force to support the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other announcements? Any other announcements?
Good night.
Yes, we're hearing the President, Robert. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I just reminding everyone online that Kiwanis Club of West St. Andrew are having their pre-Labor Day party at Footprints Cafe. Cost of ticket is $1,500. Leroy and fundraiser chairman DP Shamin. I'm in the president's chat room and I put it up on my status from time to time. So the date is Monday, May the 22nd.
Okay. Thank you, President Robert. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? If not, we go to the start of for the week with DP Stewart. DP?
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Junior.
Yes.
Okay, my 2 thoughts. The first one is when opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare.
That's right.
And the second one is the biggest room in the world is the room for self-improvement.
Okay.
And those are my 2 thoughts.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you, DP.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And I recognize DP Rupert online. Thank you for attending, sir. DP Rupert, you still on? Okay.
I think he left.
Either. At this time,
McKinley also joined us. Eh?
he joined us. Thank you.
Brother.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you for joining us as well. Okay. At this time, I'd like us to raise a toast to Kiwanis International and Jamaica land we love. Thank you, gentlemen. At this point, I'd like to bring this meeting to termination. And thank you all for coming. And we had a very good night. I do have a very good night. And I hope that all of us had a good night and continue to enjoy yourself. And we just sit back now, relax if we have some more time and listen to our own DP Stewart.